update. We look forward to checking back in. All right, to stay on the topic of voting rights, let's bring in our panel. We have founder of the Black Male Voter Project, Mondale Robinson. Also joining us, Republican Senate candidate Kelvin King. It's a pleasure to have you both. Gentlemen, welcome to BNC Live. So, Kelvin, you're the new kid on the block. We'll start with you, sir. Mitch McConnell said on the Senate floor yesterday he would personally guarantee Congress would not be more productive, saying, quote, look at this. Do my colleagues understand how many times per day the Senate needs and get unanimous consent for basic housekeeping? Do they understand how many things would require roll call votes? How often the minority could demand lengthy debate? Our colleagues who are itching for a procedural nuclear winter have not even begun to contemplate how it would look. So, Kelvin, wouldn't that also hurt Republican constituents as well?
Yeah, I think anytime you push to remove a tool for healthy debate, especially when there's such a balance in our U.S. Senate, it does a disservice to the minority of the U.S. Senate, regardless of who's in power. So I think that allowing a filibuster rule is what makes most sense in our U.S. Senate for both sides.
All right, Mondale, you're up, buddy. It's not looking likely that the filibuster rules will change. So should Democrats change tactics? And if so, what?
First of all, there's nothing about the filibuster that's useful. It's racist in its history, and also in the way it's being used right now is racist. I'm actually I'm flabbergasted at the stupidity tied to the filibuster right now. We just saw Republicans and Democrats make a change a month ago to the filibuster to allow the debt ceiling to be raised. So all of these people who are acting pure right now about never changing the filibuster is ridiculous to me, especially since the Republicans were so apt to change the filibuster to allow a simple majority to approve Supreme Court justices, which they did under Donald Trump's presidency. So right now, excuse me, we have Republicans who voted to change the filibuster to get the carve-outs they want, but not willing to do it for what Democrats are being hypocritical in a blatant way. And I don't think it's fun to play games with something as important as the Voting Rights Act and not carve out a space where Democrats can pass what this country needs, which is protection for Black and brown voters.
Calvin, Mondale brings up a good point. I mean, are your Republican colleagues just stonewalling the voting rights bill?
I didn't think it was a good point. I think he makes an assumption that our country is suppressing the voting ability of Black and brown people, and that can't be further from the truth. We had more Black and brown voters this past election than the history of elections. And these requirements that's being pushed by the Democrats are not pro-America requirements. I'm going to always bias to the Constitution. I'm going to always bias to federalism, which means states' rights. Whenever you want to federalize our election system, now you're putting the say of our states at risk, and you're putting it in control of a large, powerful federal government. We want to release or relieve the power of our federal government, not give them more power, especially when it comes to voting rights.
All right, Mondale, you want to respond?
I absolutely do want to respond. That's cap. Everybody on this show know what that brother just said is not true at all. Since the Shelby decision in 2013, we saw 1,700 polling locations closed. And anybody that don't know what the Shelby decision was, it was basically regression. It eliminated Section 5 and 4B of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which basically says certain jurisdictions, because of their history of discriminating against Black and brown voters, had to get pre-clearance from the federal government. And of those 1,700 polling locations that closed since then, they were majority, damn near all of them, were in black districts. So it is illogical and also ahistorical to say that they're not depression or suppression of the Black vote in this country. And just because Black people work harder to go vote does not mean voter suppression is not happening. That is a disrespect and a slap in the face of Black voters who are standing in line on average 51 minutes in the state of Georgia, or I should say in the city of Atlanta, where this brother is, whereas white voters in that same city are standing in line about 8 minutes. So we are sitting here hearing the same Republican talking points from this brother that we hear from the Republicans in the Senate, currently in the Senate, and none of them make sense, and we know they're all lies, period.
Calvin, respectively, we'll let you respond, brother.
Yeah, let's look at this logically, all right? Logically. Today, and we're living in 2022. Our voting bill here in Georgia, SB 202, was put in place to secure our elections. Every person in the state of Georgia agrees with secure elections, secure voting. So that is never a point of disagreement. What it also does is it increases the number of days of early voting to 17. That's more than most other states in America. And it does not, and we do not have a requirement for some sort of reason for an absentee ballot. It's a no excuse absentee ballot process here in Georgia. So, I mean, I can go on and on. There's lots of other benefits. Obviously, ID is a requirement now to request an absentee ballot in Georgia. Most Black Georgians agree with that ID requirement, pushing 70%, and almost 90% of Americans agree with an ID requirement. So, you know, securing elections and suppressing our vote are two different things. And oftentimes we hear from the Democrats a conflation of the two. If you want to vote in Georgia, you can vote. It's easy. You have a drop box you can go to that's secure, or you have a drop box right outside of your front door, which is called the mailbox.
All right,
so
gentlemen.
I think voting in Georgia is accessible to anyone who wants to vote here in Georgia, and we don't need our federal government trying to take over our elections.
The election was already secure. Stop with the fakeness. Stop with spreading a big lie. You're going to need those voters, the same voters that you're discouraging not to vote. You're going to need them if you want to win. So stop trying to convince people that our elections were not secure before Republicans started making it legal to give voters water that are standing in line, or sandwiches who have to stand in line for 8 hours. It is ridiculous what the Republicans in Georgia and on the federal level are doing, and you're carrying the same flag right now.
All right, gentlemen, that's our time. I want to thank you both for joining me this afternoon. A very, very hearty panel on voting rights. We'll continue to follow that, of course. BNC Live will bring you the latest.